And that is Amin Elhassan in the city of dreams, Miami, Florida. Is that what they call it?
That's right. And you are definitely the most devious bastard in all of New York City.
New York City. I hope there's someone out there who gets that joke. We've got a great show today. A lot of stuff to get to. Heat Sixers. Bronny James declared for the draft.
What?
Maybe.
Stuff about a movie. We'll explain it in a minute.
What?
I'll say we'll explain that in a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to keep you on your toes here. But let's start with Heat Sixers, because you were at that game last night at the Kaseya Center, and judging by your Instagram, your Apple Watch was telling you it was it was too loud in there.
It was incredibly loud. It was a playoff atmosphere. You know why? Because the playoffs have already started. If you watched Oddball earlier this week, you'd know that by now. So it was definitely playoff intensity, playoff atmosphere. The crowd was into it. My Apple Watch does what I believe. It just sends a note saying the decibel levels are loud. You're in a loud environment. But in my mind, this is my Apple Watch. It's so loud in here. We should go. And I said, shut up, Apple Watch, because the playoffs are always loud. And guess what? Charlotte, this game was bipolar, because it started with the Sixers going on a 17-2 run, and then the Heat went on a big run, and then the Sixers went on a big run, and then the Heat went on a big run, and the Sixers went on a 20-1 run, and then the Heat went on a big run, and they took the lead, almost a double-digit lead, and then the Sixers closed the Heat out. The Heat had one field goal make in the last 8 minutes of that game, as Tyrese Maxey was just absolute brilliance. And I said, give me a lot more of these, NBA, which it will, because, again, the playoffs have started.
Right. Again, it's the playoffs. I was watching, and one of my favorite things in basketball happened, which is with 2 seconds left, when the other team gets the ball, Maxey got it underneath the Heat, underneath the Sixers basket, and hugged it and ran away, and he did that thing where it's like, you can't catch me, which is one of my... I love
Keep
that.
away.
That's that, and the differential between the shot clock and the game clock are two of my favorite little NBA things. Yeah.
Are you disappointed when the shot clock is turned off?
No, I love it. I love first of all, I love a differential, but then when they just turn it off, I'm like, let's rock and roll, baby. Like, it's time this is basketball.
I won't lie, there's an air of finality that hits me whenever it's like, there's a foul and we look at the clock, 23.9 on the clock. No, the shot clock is gone now. Like, there was still a chance when the shot clock was on. Now it's off. It's like, you're done. You're done, son.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid, by the way, was spectacular early and then clearly ran out of gas. To my eye, he still is moving a little daintily. So there were a bunch of little floaters and scoop layups that he made, and I was like, he looks like he's like, don't get hurt on these. But ultimately, he played a lot of minutes, and like I said, he scored very well early when he still had his wind.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought in that first game back, when he took a spill for the first time, there was a fear in his eyes, which I completely understand. You just come back from a meniscus removal, as we're supposing that it was, and then you're like, oh, I guess I just have to get pushed to the ground again. Rozier was also limping late in the game, Terry Rozier, for the Heat. Do you know what was up with that?
I don't. I missed Eric Spoelstra's press conference because Coach Nick Nurse took too long to come out. So I was waiting for Nick Nurse, and by the time Nick Nurse was done, I rushed over to Spoel's press conference, and it was literally, I walked in, and he's like, all right, thanks, guys. And he got up and walked away, so I missed it.
Story of my life.
Yeah.
Do you think, though, like, does this mean, by your metrics, we're in the playoffs already?
The playoffs have started.
The playoffs have started. Mm-hmm. Are the Heat going to be able to show up as the playoff Heat that we have come to know? Because this was not really the playoff Heat, was it?
I think this is the problem. For a lot of the game, this playoff Heat, they were definitely a playoff Heat defensively. The problem is, and this has happened a lot for the Miami Heat over the last a month or so, is they play these teams that are talented, and they defend, and they grind, and it's a close game, and then at some point, the other team says, oh, that's right, we have star players. And those star players are able to score offensively with ease. And the Heat don't have that. And I know everyone's saying Jimmy Butler, but Jimmy picks and chooses. And the question I ask is, what if he's not picking and choosing? What if it's just, hey, some nights it's coming to me and some nights it's not? And that's kind of what happens to older star players is the first thing that goes is kind of the consistency. And so whether it was the Nuggets a few weeks ago or last night against the Sixers, their star players, last night it was Tyrese Maxey. With the Nuggets, it was Jokic and Murray. But their star players were able to score baskets with ease, and the Heat just could not generate enough offense. And so that's the thing that I wonder about. Now, maybe Jimmy is playing it slow and saving it all for a playoff run, but I felt like last night was a prime example. They were 2 games back of the Knicks and the Magic, and a half game ahead of the Sixers, ahead of the Pacers. They were in that 6th spot. They lose that game. They end up, as a result, dropping back 3 games back of Orlando and New York, who both won last night. And the Pacers won as well, so they move up to the 6th seed. But also, they lose the tiebreaker against the Sixers, who have closed the gap by a game to them. So it's like, last night would have been a night if he were choosing to play hard and give them the win at the end.
Jimmy had 20 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists. Is that correct? If we could just scroll right back up to that. Lovely. 5 assists. Okay. So but it seemed erratic. And you're saying you don't think that this is so much like up to Jimmy as much as Jimmy's body is telling Jimmy what he can and can't do at any given moment.
Yeah, I wonder. If the theory is he picks and chooses, last night would seem to me to a game that you can choose, or you would choose to show up big,
right?
Particularly down the stretch. And down the stretch, it was Terry Rozier who was really, with the ball in his hands and making plays, and not Jimmy Butler. So I don't know. I just wonder. I wonder if we give him too much credit to say, I didn't feel like doing it tonight, and whether it's actually, I couldn't do it tonight.
Scary Terry, baby.
Yep.
I wish I had that T-shirt. Do you remember those T-shirts? Those Celtics T-shirts? Scary
I do.
Terry. Okay, well, loved him. Let's move on. Let's go to the West for a second, because the Warriors and the Rockets had hell of a game. I mean, the Warriors defeated the Rockets 133-110, and the Warriors are now 4 games ahead of the Rockets in the standings, all but locking up that 10 seed. I mean, because I think the Rockets would have to win their next 6 games, and the Warriors would have to lose out, or 5 of the Rockets would have to win 5 of 6.
This was the death blow. Yep.
Okay. There is also drama. Well, so first of all, this means that the Warriors are officially in the play-in for all intents and purposes, and they will not be watching from home. So there's that. Congrats to the Warriors. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I would just say that the Rockets knew that this was a big game, and apparently they did not choose to show up either.
A lot of interesting choices last night in the association. There was some drama, though, I mean, which I love more than anything. So 2 weeks ago, the Rockets were catching up to the Warriors for the play-in. And Houston forward Tari Eason took to social media for some good old chirping. Let's roll that.
Warriors, come out to play! Warriors, come out to play!
This was apparently a reference to a movie I have not seen, Amin, called Warriors.
No, it's called The Warriors. This is a scene right
Come
here.
out to play!
Oh, is that? We'll get to what Steph was doing.
Warriors!
Okay. You've seen this movie?
Of course I've seen this movie. And by the way, it's The Warriors. It's not Warriors. What?
Okay.
You've never heard of this movie before?
No.
Have you ever heard of people going like, so and so come out and play? You've heard that reference before, right?
Yes.
You just thought it sprouted from the ground.
Yeah, I had absolutely no idea that was from a movie.
I can't believe we had to explain this reference. Honestly.
Why? I haven't seen any. Anytime you ask
you
me
don't
if
have
I've seen
to
a movie,
see the movie. It's one of the most famous references in all of movie history.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily know the name of the
Here's
movie.
looking at you, kid. Where's that from?
Casablanca.
All right, then. What's that one from?
Ace Ventura.
Okay, so it's like, these things ain't hard. We're going to need a bigger boat.
Jaws. Oh, this is fun. Give me another
come
one.
out and play.
Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, the Rockets lost, and they fell in the standings before this game, before they played the Warriors last night. And Tari Eason doubled down anyway, and he wore this shirt. Do you see that shirt?
Yeah, I'll have what he's having. You don't know what I'll have what she's having is from?
I can't remember when Harry met Sally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. God, I didn't know I was coming to school today. I feel like I'm taking a freaking pop quiz. Anyway, Tari Eason wore that shirt, and then
he didn't even play.
When it became clear that the Warriors were winning, Steph got in on the joke.
There it is.
Yeah. Now I get it.
Yeah. See?
I was like, what is he doing?
Why does he have bottles on his hands? You literally watched that. I was like, well, that's weird.
Yeah, I was like, Steph does weird stuff with his mouth guard and now water bottles.
You thought he was
are those like mini Fiji guys for him to be able to do that?
Did you think this is like he was playing Edward Bottle Hands or something?
Yeah.
Was it Edward 40 Hands? Is that what they call it? You know what that's a reference to, by the way, Edward 40 Hands?
Edward Scissorhands.
Okay, all right. I got to make sure because you haven't seen anything apparently.
Yeah, well, I have because I got most of your questions correct. Anyway, Clay also let us know what he thought about Tari's shirt stunt. Let's see what he had to say.
Yeah, that's pretty lame, especially if you're not even playing. Like, it's one thing if you're playing and you're out there competing and you can back it up, but if you're just going to be trolling from the sideline, like, bro, what are we doing? Like,
Charlotte, also, there's a rumor that Tari Eason, when he left, was not wearing that shirt. Which I think
just a vest.
Yeah, you got to do better. Like if you go talk that shit, you talk it the whole way in and the whole way out. You can't be like, I guess I'll take this off. That's terrible. By the way,
very lame.
Very lame, very soft, very cowardly. Kind of like how Ime Udoka thought his team played last night.
It looked like the moment was too big for a lot of players out there. So it looked like deer in headlights a little bit. Either look soft or scared, one or the other, and that's two bad things for a lot of our guys to have, and didn't rise up to the moment like I thought we would.
Charlotte, if I may, I'd like to spin this forward for Rockets fans because it feels like we kind of just had a lot of fun at their expense, but this is a learning process. This was a meaningful must-win game, and Coach Udoka said, I thought we were up for the challenge. I thought we were, and it clearly we weren't. So this is an experience that these guys can take with them to next year. It's like, okay, that's the bar, and we fell short of it. Next year, we know what we have to pay attention to detail to. I always point this out. The Nuggets, everyone looks at the Nuggets, this amazing championship team, and they're so good and everything. But you got to go back 5 or 6 years ago, where they hadn't made the playoffs. They'd been knocking on that door. And there was a season where literally the last game of the year was Nuggets-Timberwolves. The winner would be the 8th seed. The loser would go home. And they played, and it was a tough game, and the Minnesota Timberwolves won that game. And the Nuggets took that loss to heart. And that is what Coach Malone and a lot of people in that organization point to is that was the day we realized we have to be better. So that was the Rockets version, I believe, last night.
So this is a kind of thing where Ime is like, listen, in the offseason and then coming back next year, this becomes the ultimate motivator that they point to as you don't want that to happen again. Yeah, this is this feeling that you're feeling right now. Do you like it? Do you want to feel it? You're probably going to feel it for a couple of months. The only way to eliminate that feeling is to come back better, is to take this offseason more seriously, come back to camp in shape, focus, knowing the playbook inside and out, and be ready to compete every single night, which for the most part they have. They've played hard all year long, but it's not enough just to play hard, Charlotte. Execution is a big part of basketball, particularly this time of year, the playoffs. It's all about execution, and if you're not executing, if you're not playing high IQ basketball, you feel that feeling that the Rockets are feeling today. Yeah, or the feeling that I felt when you made fun of me for not having seen the Warriors.
Just hear of it. You didn't have to have seen it. You just had to have heard of the movie.
I'm a little surprised with myself, actually, that I just have never, that has not entered. In the production meeting, we were talking about this, and I was like, I truly just do not know what we're talking about. It's like I live, oh my God. Guys, there's an earthquake.
Oh,
there's an earthquake that happened. An earthquake happened in New York half an hour ago, and I just got an alert saying aftershocks may be felt. New Yorkers can continue usual activities. So thank you to my phone, which was on silent, for that.
Great. So keep on subway steps and being assholes to each other.
Yeah, keep knocking each other over in the street. All right, coming up, Amin, do you have weird sound where you are?
Yes, there's hammering now.
Oh, the most professional show in sports media. Oddball Hoops. It's not even called Oddball Hoops. That's just our social handles. Check us out there. Follow us on all the things, blah, blah, blah. Coming up, we're going to talk about the big women's hoop game tonight, Caitlin versus Paige. Is this the game of the year, the weekend, our lifetimes? I mean,
all lifetimes.
All right. I mean, I don't know if I should admit this as someone who is a co-host of an NBA show where the people who in the men's tournament will be in the NBA soon, but I have been watching a whole lot more women's hoops than men's hoops, as I think the rest of the country has. Is that okay to admit?
I don't think it's something you have to admit like you should be ashamed of it. I think it's something you should proudly say, Charlotte. And I have too. I've been watching the women's tournament, tried watching the men's tournament, been very bored by it.
Yeah, same. So I'm just like trying to remember some of the guys' names for when we have to talk about the draft. And in the meantime, really enjoying the women. Obviously, LSU Iowa was massive on Monday. It was 12.3 million viewers, which is the most for any women's game in college hoops history and the most ever on ESPN's history, which, you know, it's just very cool. It's fun. It feels like this is a real moment for women's basketball.
Yeah, Charlotte, I'd like to point out, like, that's, also they outdrew every game of the NBA Finals other than Game 5. And some people might say, yeah, well, whatever. But, like, the important thing to point out, this was on cable. This was on ESPN. The NBA Finals was on ABC, network TV, and typically that never happens. So for this to be the most watched game, college basketball game in ESPN's history, men's or women's, also a huge deal.
Yeah, and then UConn USC was amazing. Paige Buecker or Juju Watkins. I sort of thought that USC was going to be big enough to stop a very hurt UConn team, but Paige was inevitable. And now we get Paige Bueckers against Caitlin Clark. They haven't played since 2021. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm very excited.
I'm super excited for this. Like we talked about the other day, Caitlin Clark grew up wanting to go to UConn, had like an airbrush T-shirt or something of her in the UConn jersey growing up. And Gino Auriemma, the head coach of UConn, famously never directly reached out to Caitlin Clark during recruiting, never came to see her work out or practice or anything like that. So there is a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. On the other hand, Coach Auriemma is a great schemer. He's not like Kim Mulkey. He's actually going to come up with different ways to guard Caitlin Clark, hopefully. Charlotte, I've predicted that if UConn beats Iowa and Paige Bueckers has a great game, that she should adopt the nickname Paige Betters. Not Paige Bueckers, I'm Paige Betters. The Batard show didn't like it. They thought it was a bad joke. I said, it's not a joke.
You said it to me yesterday. You said the Hartford Courant can have that as their headline, and I was lukewarm on it too.
Courant. Well, I will put it on the back page of the New York Post. How about that in the Daily News? The tabloids know the deal. Paige Betters.
That's fine. Paige Betters, right? Yeah. They can have that. Well, I can't wait. I also can't wait for assistant coaches Jan Jensen and Chris Daly to go up against each other. They look very similar, but they were also just absolute legends for both fan bases, for both teams.
You wrote about this on your Substack.
I'm working on it. It's been my brain's been moving slow this week. I mean, stay tuned. That is coming later today, folks. We've also, though, this weekend we have. Tonight we've got NC State versus South Carolina, which I would be shocked if South Carolina does not win this game. But do you think Dawn Staley and her squad, are they inevitable?
They are. Yes, they are Thanos. They are inevitable. They've been destroying teams throughout this entire tournament. Camila Cardozo is fantastic. She's going to be in the WNBA next year. I know NC State's coming in as like the underdog, the plucky underdogs. But man, South Carolina, as everyone talks about Caitlin Clark in Iowa, South Carolina is the actual monster in the room, and I think they're going to win quite handily.
Yeah, I sort of feel like whoever wins Iowa UConn, it's like, okay, congrats. Now you get to go face this buzzsaw.
Yeah.
Like enjoy walking into the shed where your dreams die.
Yeah.
I have like a horror movie thing in my head when I think of that.
With Freddy Krueger, not Freddy Krueger. What's his name? Jason with the mask.
Yeah, or that Geico ad where it's like in a horror movie. That's what popped anyway. We have a little bit of time left, Amin, so we're going to do something that we are calling odds and ends.
Oh, I get it, because we're called Oddball. So odds and there, okay.
Well, also because it's the end of the show.
The end of the week.
Thank God. Amen. TGIF, am I right? I made myself laugh with that. Okay, in NBA news, LeBron James Jr., otherwise known as Bronny, has declared for the draft Friday morning as we were taping this.
All right, so he did something really interesting. He simultaneously put his name in the transfer portal, meaning I want to play somewhere else, and put his name in the draft, meaning I want to play somewhere else, but somewhere completely else. And so people might ask, wait a second, is he coming back to college or is he not? When you declare for the draft, you can, quote unquote, test the waters. So what this means is you're not giving up your college eligibility. You're going to go through the kind of pre-draft process, maybe do some interviews, maybe go for some workouts, and try and get some intel from the NBA decision makers. Like, do you think I'm a draftable prospect? And if the answers are either no or maybe a late second round or something like that, kids will say, well, guess what? I'll just go back to college and play another year, and then next year I'll have a clear idea of what I need to get better at. Or you might hear, you know what? Yeah, there's a couple of teams that are willing to take a flyer on you, and in which case you say, thanks, but no thanks to my college eligibility, and you go full bore into the NBA draft.
Do guys do this regularly? I feel like that's a common thing that people do. They're like, well, maybe I'll test it out, like.
Yes, it's not uncommon. And again, it's not uncommon, particularly for fringe prospects. Like if you are killing it out there, then obviously, like Dillingham for Kentucky, he's going to declare for the draft. He's going to get drafted with a top 10 pick. There is no question in his mind. But usually guys who are young players or they're like second or third year players, they don't quite know, should I stay or should I go? Those are the ones that test the waters and decide whether or not to come back. Evan Turner was a guy who tested the waters and then came back and was the number 2 overall pick the next year.
All right. Well, when Bronny's on the Lakers next year, we'll have a lot to talk about. Just kidding. Another thing that happened, this is not NBA. This is back to college hoops. This is men's college hoops. Actually...
No, this is college hoops, baby.
Not.
This ain't just men's.
Sorry, it's NC State. Men and women. So an NC State student wrote an email to his professor asking if the professor would postpone a test because the student was, quote, lit AF. And the professor said yes. Would you have said yes if you were this professor? I mean,
absolutely. Both teams in the Final Four. And I don't think anyone really had NC State in the Final Four in either bracket. So, this is a huge deal. And absolutely, like, it's a test. Like, maybe we take it the next day. Guys, let's not make this difficult.
The professor also, someone in the comments was like, this professor is the coolest professor at NC State. I had him. This totally checks out.
Oh, for real? Oh, that's dope.
Yeah. I like that verification. All right, to end the show, I mean, Jonte Porter is being investigated under suspicion of gambling. We talked about this with the Raptors. On Wednesday, the Raptors signed center Malik Williams from the G League, and he played 31 minutes that day, excuse me. He was 0 for 7. And you can't really make this up, but Williams has a tattoo on his neck. That
What's it say? I can't see. That's too small.
It says "Bet on me."
You got to be kidding me.
I'm 100% serious. And you could see it. It is on his neck, so it is visible right above the collar of the jersey.
I like the idea that he got the tattoo literally right after he heard the news. Like, the Raptors signing me? Quick. I need to put an ad out to all the gamblers. Hey, you thought that guy hit unders. Check me out.
0 for 7, baby. Hey, thanks for watching Oddball.
Yep. Have a happy weekend.